Welcome back, folks, to the Life with Nick podcast. I'm your host, Nick Kleitsch, and with me today is a guy I've known for a long time. This young man has gone through a lot of adversities in his life, including the fact that he was homeschooled for many years, even decades, one could argue. But one of my best friends, and we're going to get into some shenanigans here today. So, Sam Broome, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, bud. Also appreciate the shout out to the homeschool community out there. I think Donald Trump's going to do some big things for us. So everything's looking good. But yeah, great to be here, bud.
Oh, man, I love it. I love it. Yeah, that guy's just been doing a lot of things lately. I tell you what, he's somewhat entertaining to pay attention to. But so one thing we were talking about before we kicked this thing off is we were getting into training regimens a little bit. And this fitness is something that we've both held very near and dear to our hearts. So you had just asked me what my training split is right now. And so I try for 3 days a week. 2 of those days are like traditional bodybuilding, kind of front squat, bench press, move an iron. Of course, I got to stay in shape. So I've been doing that. And then the 1 day a week, I'll do like kettlebell or running or, what have you. Cardio is obviously not high on my list. So I'm not sure what you're up to, but that is what I've been doing lately.
Good for you. Yeah, kettlebells. I mean, you could argue that kettlebells is it's more of like HIIT training with your heart rate going up and not necessarily cardio like running miles on end, but you're still getting your heart rate up. So that's very good. Yeah, I am doing. I'm in a 5-day plan right now, and it's mostly hypertrophy. So I'll start off with a power lift or Olympic lift at the beginning of my workout, and then I'll go into some accessory exercises. And I'm right now just doing kind of like the bro split, if you will, where I'm doing one body part a day. I mix it up every 12 weeks or so. So I like to switch it up and do different splits. But yeah, right now I'm doing 5-day and isolate each body part per day, and cardio is not high on my workout program as well. But I did attend, actually, I don't think I've even talked to you about this. I think I'm going to join a jiu-jitsu gym in Marshalltown, which is about 30 minutes away. I went and I did a free class there a couple weeks back. I think it was 2 weeks ago. And they opened this jiu-jitsu gym in September of 24. And I've always been interested, and it's very, it can be very useful in my line of work and just overall health. So, I mean, between work, overall health, and just having fun, it was something I've been wanting to do. So I reached out to the owner. His name's Rick, and he was a very good guy. And yeah, I went and attended one class. It was a free class, so I did that for an hour and a half and really enjoyed it. So think I'm going to sign up and get that membership going. It's going to be a little tough with my work schedule because they only do basically afternoon sessions when I'm working. So probably be like a twice a week type of deal. But that's kind of what's been going on in my life as far as the fitness regime.
Yeah. And you're taking anabolic steroids as well, right? That's one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is that like you can make gains, but you can make far more gains if you take anabolic steroids. So that's one thing that I just wanted to make very clear is that you're doing that and seeing good gains because of it.
Yes. Yep. The HGH and just really anything I can get my hands on that has been or has not been tested in the lab. I'll try anything a couple times. So
yeah, try anything a couple times. I'm surprised actually that for I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but like the police academy, do they promote like self-defense? I feel like that's, from the outside looking in, you would think like, hey, you should probably have maybe a one-on-one course on that, but
yeah. So they actually just recently got a new director and a new assistant director at the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. When I went through in 2020, it was just not, in my opinion, it was not up to speed with where it should be as far as the self-defense and the defense tactics and everything. we're smacking like bags. People hold up those, buddy bags or whatever they call them, and we hit them with our batons, and we go through a gauntlet. So it's like smack a bag here, run 5 feet, smack another one, and I'm like, this is useless. This is absolutely pointless. And so it's in my opinion, now that I've been in it for several years, it was kind of a bummer, but they recently got a new director and new assistant director, and they're actually incorporating jiu-jitsu into their defense tactics at the academy right now, which, granted, I don't know. I'm as green as they come with any martial art, but listening to other podcasts, people that are in a law enforcement profession and also do jiu-jitsu and whatnot, they all say out of all the martial arts, jiu-jitsu is probably the most beneficial for law enforcement. So yeah, that's a positive thing for where our academy is at now with our new director. So I think it's going in a good direction.
That's exciting to hear. And I mean, like, obviously we don't need like, purple and black belts walking around. Like, if you want to, like, sure, that's your prerogative. But I do feel like there should be some baseline understanding of, like, because one thing that I've always like been so curious about, there was a book that I read by Malcolm Gladwell where they had a testimony of a police officer sharing a story. And this was back in the 70s or 80s. But the whole premise of this story was, when you're in the heat of the moment, your decision making can be heightened because you're in that intense moment, right? And it's just like, I mean, obviously we knew each other and got to know each other in college, and then you just into this profession. Like, how do guys and girls like learn to handle those tense moments, because you're not normally in that? And like, when something happens, I'm sure a rookie's knee-jerk reaction is that of stress, or that of like, taking somebody out. And then obviously you guys have weapons at the end of the day as well too. So that's a whole nother thing, but any light on that would be interesting, I think.
Excuse me. Yeah. I mean, it can be applied to like every profession, but it can't be emphasized enough that it all comes down to your training. Training is by far the most important thing, especially in a career like law enforcement, where you got to make split-second decisions that can either make you a hero or make you out to be somebody that made a very poor decision. So yeah, it comes down to the high, like you said. I mean, it's high stress situations that you try to simulate that with, when I went through the academy and there was active shooter training, so we actually got to use sim guns. We got to do working in solos and working as a team, going into the school that they had. And it was really cool. I don't think the school was in use anymore, or maybe it was going to be torn down. I can't remember. But so the whole day, I think it was 2 days worth that we simulated an active shooter. And it was awesome. I mean, that was one of the trainings throughout my academy experience that I really enjoyed, because it put stress on you. I mean, even though that it's not, this firearm isn't going to kill me, and I'm not going to be able to kill somebody, but this is as real as we can make it. And you got people that come as hostages, as citizens, and they come running down the hall screaming at you. So they try to make it as real as they can. And it's those type of trainings with, that get your heart rate going and put that stress on you that will only make you better. It's just, it needs to be done. And it probably, in my opinion, doesn't get done enough once you leave the academy. There are certain standards that we have to meet per year as far as training, but the hands-on active shooter, high stress trainings, really, I think, have to be self-initiated. And one thing that is now cool with technology is the county to the west of where I'm at in Grundy, so Hardin County, they actually have a simulator with a big screen. So they have essentially a computer that can come up with different scenarios. So let's say it's a traffic stop, and you put your vest on and it's all connected. It's all synced up. So if I have my vest on and I have this obviously fake firearm. But if I pull the trigger on it, it will simulate on the screen that I fired. And I can't remember what other equipment that they have over there, but I didn't get to use that one. I used the one at the academy, and the one at the academy is essentially the same thing. It's a little bit older though. That's a great resource to have, as far as creating those high stress situations. So like I remember for mine going through the academy, it was a traffic stop. I was a backup officer on a highway. So primary officer stops this van. He's walking up to the van. The van puts it in reverse, hits the officer. Driver gets out, charges at you with a knife, and you got to make decisions on what to do. And it was really, I mean, it was good. It was, and your entire class is sitting behind you because we do one at a time. So there was, 30 something people that would go one after the other. And your classmates obviously can't help you out because it's just you in the scenario. So it was fun to, obviously you kind of put pressure on each other, and, you're going back and forth with some of the guys in your class, and just adding to that stress, so those are the type of things that are really good for training. But yeah, long story long. Yeah, I think in my opinion, it all comes down to training and trying to simulate those high stress situations, and understanding case law and knowing how to do your job and try to be as constitutional as you can. So,
yeah. And that's what I think a lot of people misunderstand is like, you can be as prepared as you can be, as you would be with anything in life. But when the shit actually hits the fan, it's so easy in hindsight to be like, oh, this person did this incorrectly. But it's like, if you're going through that, if you haven't had reps and even a comfort with that intensity, like, especially with the thing that you brought up with the school that I thought was really cool, is nothing to do with the perpetrator themselves and everything to do with the environment of chaos. Like, how do you respond when a van reverses and then like is coming after you now? Like, that's the kind of stuff that, like, you can read a report on the news and be like, this is what happened. But until you actually respect the fact that, like, if you were to put themselves in their shoes, I mean, I'm sure you can talk on many things with that, but it's like, that's where it's not as easy as it looks to go through this. Even if you have systems and processes, like, this is fucking real time, life and death, and there are consequences to action. So it's cool that you're able to, talk on that a little bit. And if there's anything else that comes to mind, like, definitely share stories, because I didn't realize the training itself was even that extensive. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, so that was in my academy experience. So I graduated the academy in 2020, and I don't even know if I explained what I do or where I'm at. So I'm a K-9 handler for the Grundy County Sheriff's Office, and I've been with the county for 4 years as of January 11th. Before that, I was a police officer in Grundy Center from 2019 to early 21. So haven't been on for decades or anything like that, but I've had a share of interesting experiences and some critical incidences. And yeah, it really just comes down to, like, I tell any person that has talked to me or come to me asking, hey, I want to get in law enforcement. What do you think? I mean, this is just my opinion. I am no expert by any means, but in my experience, it comes down to being able to communicate with people is unmatched as far as what I would consider being successful in law enforcement. Communication is not just with your coworkers, just talking to, talking to people that you're going to be dealing with. We see people at their worst, typically anytime we get called somewhere. So, when that person is going through whatever they're going through, and they're obviously having a shit day, or, something's going on in their life, it's important to, do your best to communicate with them as a human and not as an authoritative figure. Within reason, obviously it's circumstantial. There will be times that you need to control a situation, and in order to de-escalate it, sometimes you have to exercise your authority more than other times. But yeah, communication, and then just knowing, I tell people, are you okay with going to work every day, not knowing if you're going to make it home to your family? Because it doesn't matter what jurisdiction you're in. We're in a town. I live in a town of less than 3,000 people. And my county is the county that I work in is, I think, 14, maybe 14,000. So we're not huge by any means. We're not a Polk County or a Lynn County, Blackhawk. But anything can happen. We had a state trooper get shot and killed on August 9th in 2021 here in Grundy Center, town of less than 3,000 people. And so that's something that not to try to scare them off or anything like that, but
It's real.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I want, if somebody's really interested in it, then I think it's fair that they know what they're getting into and what could happen. And, if that's not something that they thought about, maybe, or maybe, like the last person that I talked to, I said, why do you want to get into law enforcement? And they said, well, it looks cool on TV. I just thought it would be, and I'm like, okay, I mean, that's, it's your prerogative. I'm not going to rule you out or anything. I encourage you to go right along with, an agency and, see how it goes. But, yeah, it's an interesting job, and it's usually something different every shift, which is part of why I enjoy it. I think what's helped me in my career as far as trying to be a good peace officer and somebody that's reasonable is just to mentally prepare for the worst case scenario anytime you get a call or anytime you do anything. It comes back to training, like we were saying, but a lot of times it becomes the most dangerous when you start to get complacent as a law enforcement officer. So, things start to get routine, or, it's just maybe you work in a jurisdiction where it's a little bit slower, and you just start to kind of fall into this realm of, just going through the motions essentially. So for me, what's helped, on the mental side is, if I get called anywhere, just already imagining the worst case scenario, what I would do, if this happens, what needs to be done? If, there's, how many people, and, where are they at? Where's the nearest, deputy? Where's my nearest coworker? Where's the nearest hospital? Things like that. So, same thing on traffic stops. I mean, there was a saying, I'm going to butcher this, but essentially the saying that I read a while back was from a law enforcement officer. And he said something along the lines of, you should be as compassionate and loving to the people in the car that you stopped, while also having a tactical plan to kill everybody in the car.
Wow. I get that though. That's interesting.
So it's, that one to me was kind of cool. That stood out, but, it's right on the nose, me personally, I'm not looking to get into anything. I mean, I like an adrenaline dump every now and then, but I'm not looking for pushing my luck in any way. So, I want to get along with the people, like, for instance, making traffic stops, the people that I stop and talk to. I want to have a good, cordial conversation with them. But at the same time, like we discussed earlier, things can change in a blink of an eye. So just coming down to training and being prepared to make split-second decisions that you hope are the right decisions when the moment comes. So,
yeah, and if you wouldn't mind, Hans, let's dive into this just a little bit. So, whether it's a traffic stop or a call or anything where you are called into action, when you're going through your process, you obviously mentioned that you're preparing for the worst case scenario. Are you approaching everything in the sense of, hey, I'm just basically going to observe the situation as I'm rolling into it, and then kind of understand that you have a protocol? Or how do you view that? Is everything different, or is it like, hey, let's observe first before I'm even going to approach anyone? Because I mean, we were stupid college kids once. Everyone was. Like, from the reverse perspective, everyone perceives, unfortunately, that there is this, inability to just speak and hang out with an officer and shoot the shit and know that they have our best interest in mind. And just knowing you personally, I'm sure you want that impression for them to know that you can protect them. But I'm just kind of curious, when you're going on to a scene or going into something like that, like, just how you kind of view things and I don't know, just knowing you, I feel like you'd be a very observant human to like, hey, what's the total picture here before I do anything too crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like you said, it is circumstantial. 100% depends on the call and the information that we have at the time. Because basically every call we get, we're only getting the information. Our dispatcher is getting the information from the person that is there at the scene or involved in whatever's going on. So their emotions usually are running high. They may leave out key details of what's going on. So we essentially have the gist of what it is, and so based on that information, you know, uh, I'll go into it having a plan. With the information that I have at the time, I'll go into it with trying to come up with the best plan that I have as far as the courses of action that needs to be taken. But yeah, I mean, if rolling into whether it's a domestic dispute between couples or a rollover accident on the highway, or somebody's just got some terrible news, maybe they're bankrupt or whatnot, and they're looking to harm themselves or harm their family. Yeah, I try to take it as slow as I can while also within reason. If immediate action needs to be taken, I'm obviously not just going to hang out and then say, well, I want to get all the information first. If exigent circumstances are, afoot, if somebody's gonna possibly get hurt or whatnot, or somebody needs life-saving actions, then we got to act right away, and we can figure out the rest later. But yeah, I mean, like you said, if it's a situation that's not entirely, I need to just sprint in there and get it under control. Yeah, I mean, it's important for me, in my opinion, the way that I do things is to, again, just not come off as talking down to people, making them feel like they are bad people because the cops are here now. Obviously, there's two sides to every story, so it's just like kind of like I was saying earlier. It comes down to being able to communicate with people. Is a huge part of what we do. I mean, it's very, very, in my opinion, it's right up there with being efficient with your firearm. I mean, being able to let people know, hey, I'm talking to you like a human because I'm human too. This is what I do for a living, but I'm here to help. We're not trying to make you feel small. We're not trying to belittle you. We just got a call, and so we have a duty to act, and that's what I'm doing. So yeah, I mean, it's all circumstantial. Different calls require different courses of action. A lot, some of them are high speed, need to go right now. Some of them are, hey, we have a little bit more time. Time is on our side, so let's figure out what we're doing, what the game plan is. So yeah.
Yeah, because I think that again, the common people, let's say you're living your life, you're running into officers in very particular situations, right? Traffic stop, at a concert, if someone's being an asshole at a restaurant or something like that, domestic, call in. A lot of the time, unless you're used to having, cops come to your home, let's say, it is this kind of liaison, or not liaison is not the right word, but this initial front of like, okay, like they're here to just crack down, which in this case, it's telling me that no, when they're showing up, they have a plan, they've communicated, they are trying their best to just communicate with whomever and get down to the bottom of it. Now, just with any profession too, I know that Chris Rock has a really funny saying about bad apples in certain jobs where he's like, yeah, like flight attendants or excuse me, pilots or some other things, like you just can't have bad apples because then people really get hurt. But I do think like the law enforcement in general, there are mostly good people. As with any profession, there are some bad people and bad things happen. But the general, consensus is that we're trying to keep the people's best interest at mind. And you, in some ways, are the thermometer of if things get elevated or not, too. So I think that's an important thing, that like de-escalation is something that you guys are trained on very much so, to say, obviously, a lot of times emotions are high. We got to kind of calm people down a little bit. I'm sure you probably had many of these things happen, but do you have anything in particular where it was kind of a cool situation where you were able to de-escalate to kind of get to the bottom of something? Or I'm just trying to think of a case where you were able to kind of put that in action and, people are like, hey, thank you for slowing things down a little bit and being an advocate for us.
Yeah. Um, you know, I guess there's a lot of calls that we go on that I guess I would consider successful, because we did manage to um, calm things down or de-escalate. So I like to say that you know it happens a decent amount more so than there's more successes than there are failures as far as did we de-escalate, did we succeed in this call, did we help this person's life out. I guess one would that happened a couple months back. Kid was walking on the highway. He admitted that he had been drinking, um, was going through a rough time in his life. I think, family issues, girlfriend issues. And so he's walking on the highway. Obviously, somebody calls it in. Um, so and so, younger adult, he's wearing this and he's walking on the highway. This is where he's at. So I pull up and he was instantly, essentially, kind of afraid of me, and that to me, and like instantly would tell me that okay, this isn't his first run in with law enforcement. Something I think has happened in the past, and so he kind of almost like kind of like crouches down, submits almost in a way, as I'm talking to him, and so just trying to communicate with him, explain why I'm here. I mean, you're not in any trouble right now. Just we got a call. Obviously, somebody's walking on the highway. That's a very out of the ordinary thing. So people call, and so we respond. And so he was going through a tough time, and his mom and grandma showed up at the scene right off the highway. So they were obviously in the whereabouts of what was going on. And sometimes that can be a saving grace, and sometimes that's just fuel to the fire when other families show up to certain scenes. In this case, it fueled the fire. He was not happy to see mom and grandma. So, yeah, I mean, he ended up trying to leave and walk back on the highway. I actually ended up having to tackle him and take him to the ground and put him in handcuffs. But we talked for a while after that. I sat him up and just explained to him, hey, I didn't want to have to do that, but when you're lawfully detained, you got to listen to us when we tell you can't leave. And so,
right. Well, not only that, in the moment, he doesn't realize this, but when you're in a position like that, the worst case scenario is that he now puts other people, unfortunately, in a spot where they're either going to cause him harm or cause other people harm. And that's never what you think about during it if you're the person going through it. But
correct.
In your case, like you're saving a situation from happening.
Yeah, I mean, he admitted to me that he had been drinking and everything, and so obviously alcohol plays a factor in thinking clearly and whatnot. And so yeah, no, I mean, that was one of those deals where he wants to leave the scene, and it's rush hour on a week. Well, it was a weekend, but it's still the traffic was decently heavy. I mean, I can't have an intoxicated person walking on the highway with the traffic and everything. So, yep, I forcefully placed him on the ground, and had to put him in handcuffs. But just sat him up, talked to him. He was obviously frustrated and taken back, and obviously I was just trying to reason with him as best as I could, as anybody that's under the influence that you can reason with. And he ended up calming down, and mom and grandma talked to them and said, listen, I don't really want to take him to jail. He's going through a lot right now. I don't want to bring him in for public intox. I don't think that would be proactive or beneficial for anybody. So are you guys okay with taking him back to Eldora, which was 12 miles away? And they agreed to. So I went and talked to him and kind of explained that to him. And he had calmed down a lot, agreed to get in Mom and Grandma's car, and off they went. We went our separate ways. Overall, the interaction was probably 12 minutes.
Right. I love hearing that though, Hans, because these are the kind of stories that you never hear on the news, right? You never hear the communication. You never hear that you as an officer didn't want to detain him. You like, it wasn't these immediate urges that you had as an individual. It was, I had to do what I had to do. I tried my best, gave him the benefit of the doubt, took action when I needed to, but ultimately it gave him a way out, and he was able to calm himself to the point where that was the best case that had happened. And then you're both able to go on your merry ways. And I bring that up only because I just get frustrated at times, and I'm sure a lot of people do, because you hear stories, you see stories, and nothing is black and white in this world. And so often I think people make assumptions based on information that they don't have. And so it's just like, hey, there's way more to the story than just what the end result is.
Every time there's more information. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, and again, this is all my opinion, and this is, I'm not the poster child for anything. This is just my experience, my opinion. It's society, well, media, I should say, has done an amazing job at putting law enforcement in this negative light and under this microscope. They've absolutely crushed it as far as what they're choosing to post and what the narrative's going to be. And I will be biased because I'm in the line of work, but man, I've met a lot of cops in my career, and they're some of the best people that I've ever met. And a lot of them I'm honored to work with, honored to train with. It's like you said, in my opinion, the majority of law enforcement in any capacity, they all want the same thing, and they all want to help people, and they all want to arrest the criminals and bring people to justice and do it constitutionally and lawfully. But when the media is only posting, hey, this cop shot this particular person, and here's the headline, and it's a headline that anybody would look at and think, okay, so they were wrong again. The cops were in the wrong. They acted too quick and this and that. And so yeah, I've kind of really just tried to stray away from it. I used to see it a lot more on all my social media and everything like that, and I would just get frustrated because I've been in certain instances and have watched people lose their lives in the line of duty. And, when I see a headline or see something like that from wherever it is in the country, and they're just getting scrutinized or ream over the coals, it's just, you don't have the information. You're basing this opinion because you have this much information. Whereas if you knew the entire story and all the facts, then you'd be able to give a fair opinion. And your opinion is your opinion. Everybody's entitled to it. But without having all the facts and all the information, I don't think it's reasonable to just, scrutinize somebody over what little information they have. But
yeah, and that too, going back to the original kind of point of us talking on, what the hell was that? Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a brain fart right now. Talking on, being in that heightened state and people judging people for their actions in that particular environment. It's like, if you ran everyone through those kind of situations, most people are going to fail because you're just not as well prepared as you think that you are. And there's a reason we have a checks and balances system. Like, that is good for society as a whole, is to have that. And that's because, obviously a lot of people would go wild and bend the rules if we didn't have that. But one thing that, I wanted to ask you, and we've known each other for a long time, but I don't know if I ever actually talked to you about this or not, so it'll be good. But what even got you into this in the first place? I don't know if I've ever actually asked you that and talked about it, because, we had a good time in college and all that other good stuff, but this was maybe not not the path that I thought you would go down, which I'm sure that's not the first time you've heard that, but I'm curious to get your, first live take on why you are in the line of work that you're in, my
Yeah, I'm surprised as well. It's, anybody that knew me in high school or college probably did not think that I would be anywhere near this career field. But yeah, so towards well, it would have been after graduating from college, I did a internship with the Fayette County Sheriff's Office, and I got into that with Chief Davis, who was the chief of Fayette at the time. And he's somebody that I always got along with throughout college. He obviously.
Well, just to interject really quick for the listeners. So one thing about that gentleman that you just mentioned, he was wonderful at exactly what you talked about, of gathering information, de-escalation, just trying to give people benefit of the doubt. So by you telling me that, no better guy for the job for you to kind of learn from.
Yeah, he was a good dude. And, I mean, it's not like he had the easiest position. I mean, you're working in the only place in the country that has a college and not a high school, and it's a tiny little town. So you're going to have a bunch of college kids running around, the only thing to do in that town is drink or, whatever. And so, he got to talk to a lot of people, and I ended up being able to communicate with him. And I think he offered me his phone number to let him know if we were going to have a gathering at our house, and just to keep him updated. And so it was cool. He painted a really good picture for me, or just helped my opinion and thinking that could be something that I could do. The plan was initially to join the military. Just life happened. I ended up not going to basic training, and I ended up putting that off, joining the military. And but I decided, if I'm not joining the military right now, what is something that I could do that's somewhat similar in a service profession? And my now wife, actually, I remember years ago, brought up being a cop, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, maybe we can try. And so I went to college not for anything to do with law enforcement, exercise science. So I went the complete opposite direction with that, and started applying at all these departments that, looking back now, I had zero chance of getting into. I remember the first one that I ever applied for was the Marion Police Department.
No shit.
And the numbers have gone down quite a bit as far as people testing for law enforcement positions. But back then, I think there was like 60 or 70 something applicants. And so
I just envision the person with the applicants, they get their sheet and they go, Sam Hans Broome. Ooh.
Yeah, let's put this one
just
on the bottom, and maybe we'll have time for him, but probably not.
No, I say that jokingly, of course.
No, that's exactly what happened. So I had zero experience. I didn't have the degree, and I'm going up against these guys that have years of experience, and just a lot of accolades that I did not. So I went on, like, I don't know, over 10. It was probably 11 or 12 different interviews before I got hired. And yeah, I went all over the state, testing and doing the PT and the post tests and trying to meet all the requirements. And I ended up only kind of looking at smaller departments because I think it would have helped my chances, because I just didn't have the resume that these other guys had. And at bigger departments, typically you're going to have a higher number of applicants. So I thought my chances were a little better at a smaller department. So while I was going around and applying and interviewing, I worked in the Blackhawk County Jail in Waterloo as a resume builder. So I did that for 9-10 months, maybe, just to kind of build up my experience. Because all I had was the Fayette County internship, and that was it. So I worked in the jail in Blackhawk, and ended up getting hired by the police department in Grundy Center and went and got certified at the academy. And financially, it wasn't the best situation for me. So I applied to be a sheriff's deputy at the sheriff's office in Grundy County. I think that was 4 months after I graduated the academy. So got hired by them and then got selected to be the K-9 handler. I got hired by the county in January of 21, and I got selected to be the handler in April, I think, of 21. So pretty quick transition from working the city streets of Grundy Center to having a dog and having the whole county. It was I'm very fortunate that I was given the opportunity to do that. I've been a handler for most of my career, but anyway, going back to your original question, I'm surprised as well. And everybody that I've talked to that asks what I'm doing now, they haven't seen me in a while, and I tell them it's usually the same reaction, pretty wide eyed and, turn their head a little bit. And I'm right there with them. I say, yeah, I didn't foresee it either, but here we are. So.
Yeah, but one thing now that you say that I didn't consider maybe is that your brothers, your family, you have a pretty rich history of service, though.
Yeah. My dad was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. My oldest brother Peter's a pilot. Philip just got a promotion for. He was a crew chief, and I can't remember what his title is now technically, and then buddy Rick, who was supposed to be here, glad he could make it.
We'll bring him in the back half of the podcast.
So, and he's also in the Air Force. So, I was that was kind of the plan because, at 18 years old, I didn't know what I wanted to study. I didn't know anything about anything other than I played baseball, and I knew I was going to college, and I had no idea what I was going to study, and I had no idea what I wanted to do for a living after that. So I was just like, I'll just do what, my brothers did and join the military. And then just life happened and ended up not working out. I went and I did take the physical and the written test to go to basic training. Just wasn't in the cards at the time, and I hadn't ruled it out, but when I started getting into law enforcement, I was enjoying it, and I ended up kind of falling in love with being a handler and certain things about the job. So that's where we're at now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's one thing I talked to my wife about and others is that, it's so hard to figure out what the hell you want to do with your life when you're either entering college or exiting college. And it's almost an asinine concept to even think we would have a take on things. That's one thing I've been really kind of pondering lately is I just don't understand why there is this expectation, if you will. Because if you've never even done anything that you're wanting to say that you even want to do, you're not going to know until you get in that seat. So even if you think that you know what you think that you want, it's not the same when you do them internships and whatnot. Now there's some rare breeds out there. Like my sister Mariah wanted to be a nurse from maybe third grade. And, it was in her heart and in her blood for that whole time. So you get those rare birds. But I guess one could argue that, if you have a rich history of service and, obviously like physical fitness, this might be a good blend of some of those things. But yeah, it's one thing that I was thinking about before we hopped on the podcast. I'm like, fuck, I don't even think I asked Hans why the hell he even got into military policing to begin with. So it's funny to learn.
Yeah, I am not one of those that can say, oh yeah, from the time I could walk, I wanted to be a cop and this and that. It never crossed my mind once until I was 21, 22 years old. I always had respect for him, and I always tried to get along as best as I could with him. It honestly, I graduated college. I coached baseball in the summer. I worked at Shields for a while. And I was just like, okay, I got to put my big boy pants. Like I'm in the real world now. I'm not in Fayette anymore. I'm out in the world, so I better get my shit together. And so yeah, the degree that I spent all of my money on, I ended up going the other complete opposite way with it, which is fine. I mean, it's like you said, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And unless you're fortunate enough to either grow up in an environment where you can oversee maybe a family member or whoever doing a job, and you start to think it's something you could do at that young age, looking in the future, that's fantastic. I think it happens a lot less than it does. The alternative is we just get thrown into college. You're 18 or 17, and hey, what do you want to study so that you can go and get a job after all this debt you're going to put yourself into? What kind of job you want to get to pay it all back? So, but yeah, no, it's just funny. It's just how life works. So,
yeah, people always ask me, they're like, what kind of degree do you have? I'm like, I have a marketing degree, but that degree is absolutely not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all until you actually get like actual life experience. And then you're like, okay, I think I kind of enjoy this or enjoy that. But the other thing I wanted to hit on really quick, Hansi, is that I think is cool is I can't remember what's her name again.
my daughter,
the pooch, the K-9. No.
Well, okay, my dog's name.
Sorry,
are you talking about my work dog?
I misled you very badly right there. Yes, your work
His
dog.
name is Zander.
Or Zander, yeah. Sorry.
Well, you said what's her name, and I was like,
I know. Yeah, so Zander, he has ADHD for sure, but he's a good dog. So how does do you volunteer for that, or do they just go, wow, this Hans guy is who we're gonna? He really has his self pulled together, so we're gonna give him a German to train.
Yeah, so obviously it was one of the things that our sheriff, who had just taken over. So our sheriff became sheriff in January of 21, and that was one of the things he wanted to do, was implement a K-9 program. And so me and another guy put our names in the bucket to be drawn for a handler position, and I ended up getting the position. And what we did is we ended up hiring a master trainer to reach out to his vendors that he has overseas, because he's been doing it for years, and myself and my sheriff do not know anything about what to look for in a working dog. And so we hire a master trainer. He reaches out to his vendors. They send him videos of some of the dogs that they have, and he essentially says, I want that one. And they ship it. In this case, Zander came from Mexico, so he was on the streets of Mexico.
It's the best place for a dog with ADHD for Mexico is Grundy, Iowa. That's the best place for it.
So he it's funny. He loves grass, because obviously I just don't think there was a lot of it where this vendor was at. So when we first got him, he was just obsessed with all the grass that we had. And it was kind of funny. But so, yeah, he came in from Mexico to Texas to Cedar Rapids, and then Cedar Rapids to Grundy. So, yeah, the master trainer picked him, and he comes here. So Zander lived with me for a couple weeks before starting our handler school. And the handler school is a 5-week course that me and Zander have to go through to get certified to be on the road together. And so we did that, did our handler school, got certified. And so now we have to get a minimum of 16 hours every month of training. So we train every Wednesday, typically in the morning. And we do that with a bunch of different agencies in Northeast Iowa. Most of them are pretty, not too far away from here. But we'll have anywhere from 7 to 12 handlers show up to train. And so it's a blast. Honestly, it's my favorite day of the week, going to training and running through scenarios, because kind of piggybacking off we talked about earlier as far as the high risk decision making and things like that. Being a handler before I got Zander, and around the time that I put my name in to be a handler, I was reaching out to some other handlers that I just happened to know through other people, and they were going through some of the things that come with being a handler as far as on the job. When the dog's going to be involved in a call, you're the guy that's going to be directing everybody else what to do, because you are the handler, so your dog best, and should know when to use him, and so going to training is part of why I love being a handler, just creating different scenarios, different exercises to do with dogs. And I love to be a decoy as well. I have a bite suit, so I love to to catch dogs as well. It's just a blast. I mean, it was something that, again, I mean, if you would ask me, a couple of years back after college, hey, would you see yourself being a handler working with dogs, let alone in a law enforcement capacity? I was like, hell no, I don't know anything about it. I've had dogs, like house dogs, my whole life, but so no, it was it's been a fun ride. It's definitely changes quite a bit, like at home life. It was something that I talked to, obviously, my now wife about, but when I was gonna get Zander and bring him home, when that information got into my wife's head, we had to talk about if she was on board with it, and she was very supportive. So it was the initiation of him being in our house and trying to domesticate him, and just people in general, was one of the more stressful things, just because he was born to be a work dog. So that's what he is. He wasn't made to be able to walk up to somebody or have somebody walk up to him and let him pet him and this and that. He was all business.
That's interesting.
Because over in Mexico, I mean, he was either biting somebody or he was in his kennel, or working on other things, other bite work. That's essentially all that they worked on with those dogs, is building up their drive so that they will bite the guy that they need to bite, or that the handler tells them to. So as far as like the obedience and the building searches and tracking people and finding narcotics, that all happens once he came to the States.
So you guys are working together quite a bit, which obviously makes sense, because if you're going to have the authority to let him out and do what he needs to do, that's a pretty intense situation. I'm going to assume, that's maybe not your first option, but like if shit obviously gets real, you need, protection for him. But and maybe I'm not explaining that well. So maybe we could use that as a quick bridge in to be like, so what's a cue for you to say that this is a job for him to come in on?
You talking like what calls that I would apply him to?
Yeah. Yep. If you're either in the motion of trying to handle it yourself or what have you.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's several of the applications for him are quite a few of them. So, I mean, if we're, let's say, in a vehicle pursuit and we think that, this person might bail out of their car after we get them stopped, which happens, it's not uncommon that happens. So we can use Zander to apprehend the driver of that vehicle. If let's say we throw stop sticks out and he hits him, he ends up coming to a stop somewhere and he bails out on foot, I can send Zander to apprehend him. He is 1,000 times faster than us. It saves us, just if I can have my dog apprehend somebody and bring him to the ground for me, and it's not a foot chase that takes, miles or throughout town, I lost him in a building or lost him behind whatever structures are around, the dog can find him a lot faster and a lot more efficient. So we can use him there. Building searches, if we got to go in and clear, whether it's a house or a convenience store or whatnot, burglar alarm goes off, or we got signs of forced entry on the doors. We think somebody's in here. Go into a building search, make my announcements. Hey, this is so-and-so with the sheriff's office. You're under arrest. You need to come out, or I'll send my dog. He's a trained police dog. He'll find you and he'll bite you, and hope that they comply. But if they don't, then, send them in to find whoever's in there that shouldn't be in there. Maybe somebody throws something out of a car during the pursuit. If somebody throws a weapon, or if they throw any article, really, that they had on them or was in the car, will have some sort of human odor on it. Or it could be, drugs too. But let's say they toss it into the ditch right off the highway, and somebody calls that in and says, hey, I think he just threw something out right here. Okay, I'll pull off and I'll grab the dog and I'll cast him out to run the ditch, where they think they threw whatever item it is, and he can find that article, firearm, drugs, whatever it may be.
Wow.
And then obviously tracking. If somebody bails out, we don't know where they went. We don't know anything about where they could be. Then I can take Zander and try to get him in, at least, help him out as best as I can, get him to where I think that person would have been. If they bailed out on foot, like let's say they were in a vehicle and we ended up losing sight of the vehicle, but then we come across the vehicle, doors open and there's nobody around, I'll start him right by the open door, because that's obviously where that person had to be. And and then he puts his nose to the ground and tracks, and he does a pretty good job. But there's various applications to use the dog, and these dogs are pretty dang good at what they do. They do, one of the best things that they do is just de-escalate situations. So every time I've gotten Zander out and given commands, or told somebody if they don't comply, this is what's going to happen, they've given up and we've had a successful surrender. So that's been it's a good outcome. As a handler, me being selfish, would I love for him to have his first street bite, a good lawful street bite? Yeah, just so he's got that under his belt, and us as a team have that. But I will take a surrender any day, because that's ultimately what we want. If somebody doesn't need to get bit, then I don't want them to get bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. One thing that comes to my mind, and this is just like a man thought here, but so when you're in that bite suit and he or other dogs come in, like, what's the degree of power that they have? Like, is it more so that they clamp on and don't release, or is it just their initial engagement that can really take like a grown man down? Or like, what is that like? Because I've always been curious about, like, could I take a dog? You know what I mean? Like, not just thinking that I could take a dog, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's both. It's both. And it depends on the dog. Like, Zander's only 58 pounds, right around. But we train with these dogs that are 90, 95 pounds. And so the hardest biting dog that trains in our group, he's actually a security dog at the hospital in Waterloo. But this dog is just an absolute hammer, and he doesn't weigh 90 pounds. I don't remember how much he weighs, but I know he's not 90 pounds. So he's not a huge dog, but he's just strong as shit. And his head is ginormous. And even with my bite suit on, when I catch him, I mean, the initial, like you were saying, the initial engagement is for sure enough to knock you down. You have to make sure that your feet are planted and you're ready to remain standing and absorb the dog. But he's the type of dog that, when he's on my arm and I'm fighting with him and going back and forth, we train our dogs to drive into the bite and not pull. So you want them to push into the bad guy or whoever they're biting. You don't want them to pull their arm, So this dog, literally, I'll be fighting him, and he'll push so hard, he'll drive in that it knocks me back this way, and I have to use my other arm to hold myself up because he's just so strong.
Wow. So yeah, like if that's just human flesh, like he's probably ripped.
Well, it
through
hurts
that,
me
like,
with a suit on. Like it still hurts my
Yeah.
arm. I'll have marks on my arm even with the suit that makes me look like
Jesus.
Michelin Man. So you can imagine just this, no equipment.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
it's everything would be shredded. It'd be down to the bone, and I would be defenseless. There'd be nothing that could be done. So yeah,
Wow.
but it's
That's
so
amazing.
fun. Like it's such a good time because you're rooting for the dog. Even me as the decoy, like the decoy has a very important job when it comes to bite work and catching dogs, because a decoy can really mess up your dog very quick if they don't know how to catch the dog, and if they don't know how to engage with the dog once it's on the bite.
Mm. So real quick, Hans, like just I think that like that's bringing up a very interesting point that I wouldn't have considered in terms of training and development. So like just talk about how a bite catcher or a decoy would like fuck them up for the
Yeah, so
worst.
a common one is if they are new to catching a dog, if they haven't before. A lot of guys will want to hold their arm out and then keep it there and be as strong as they can. And so when the dog comes in, it's like hitting a wall essentially. And so, even though I've tell them, and my coworkers are guilty of it, because beforehand I'll say, hey, I'm going to start him like 4 foot away from you. So he's not going to be running from 50 yards away at full bore. We're going to start slow. We're going to start close. And the decoy's job is to absorb the bite. Like you don't want to hold your arm here. The dog comes and just stops, because they're still coming fast, even from 3 foot away. So if he just comes in and hits your arm, his neck gets cranked, back, which can really do harm to the dog. Now imagine the dog is coming from 50 yards away and he's running 25 miles an hour, and he runs into a stiff arm and the neck just goes flying back. So, as a decoy, you're absorbing the bite. So you need to move in order to make sure you're not cranking the dog's neck. So typically I will, have my arm out, the dog comes in. As he's coming in, I'm almost turning my body away from him, giving him my arm. I'm not trying to hide my arm from him. I'm letting him have my arm, but I'm absorbing all of his power and turning so that he's not getting his neck cranked. He's almost kind of spinning around. I'm basically spinning him around from where he was coming from.
Gotcha.
And then obviously, while he's on the bite after the initial engagement, you're not twisting your arm like this. This is not how a decoy, like a teeter-totter, essentially. You're not wanting to do that, because what's his neck? His neck is doing the same thing, because he's on the bite. He's not going to come off. So even though it hurts him, if you're cranking up and down like this, you're only doing harm to his neck. So it's essentially up and down and side to side. We're not going like this. And that one is, that one. I would say the initial absorbing the bite is probably what takes longer to learn for people that are new to decoying. But
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's once you get it down though, it's really not. It's you do it a couple times. You start in close. That's what I try to do with my coworkers. I'm not just going to send them from 50 yards away and say good luck, because it'll hurt. It'll honestly harm my dog more than it would harm them. They got the suit on. They'll be fine. But yeah, it's fun. It's a blast. I love catching dogs.
I was gonna say I feel like it'd be fun, but I also feel like I don't know if you actually do this, but are there any situations where like you're like sprinting away and they come and like grab you? Because I feel like that would be kind of a fun challenge to like run. Obviously, they're gonna catch you.
Yeah,
but...
so we'll do foot bailouts. We'll simulate a pursuit, and then I'll bail out of the car, and then the handler gets out. And basically everybody has similar to what I have, which is a remote, a door popper. So I don't have to actually physically open the door. I can hit a remote and it opens Zander's door. So, decoy runs away, handler hits the door, out comes the dog, and the chase is on. I've gotten knocked on my ass plenty with dogs. I'll be running because it's even more difficult to keep your balance. Obviously, you're running instead of just standing still. So I'm running. Here comes the dog. I give him my arm, and he grabs it, and I absorb him, and he, like a helicopter, comes swinging this way, and I go over top of him. And now we're both.
Yeah, I was going to say the weight distribution, you'd have to probably almost falling down would be to your favor just because that's what would happen in real life.
Yep.
I mean, there's no way you would get bit and then keep running with the dog. I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me. But
but it's a blast. And as far as the strength of these dogs, I mean, it all depends. Some dogs, like I said, Zander, he's a hard biting dog for his size, but when it comes to these 85, 95 pound dogs, they have him beat just because of their size and strength. But
just a 90-pound dog coming and latching onto you. Holy fuck.
Yeah, it's fun, but that's why it's my favorite part of the week is my training day. I absolutely love going and working with other handlers and their dogs. And I am no trainer by any means, but I've done it for several years now. So being able to help some of the newer guys that are new to the handler world, it's just awesome it's one of those things where it just like anything where you're not the one doing it. Like let's say a sport, like if it's baseball and you're doing tee work, you don't see what you're doing, but you're watching somebody do it and you can tell what they're doing, but they can't feel it because they're the ones doing it. And it's very similar being a handler. As far as like leash control, what your feet are doing, what's the dog, is the dog cueing off of the handler or is he cueing off of the target odor that he's looking for? And just all sorts of things. And so it's always fun to help out and have guys help me out, obviously, because I need it just as much. There's something that I'm doing or that my dog is doing that I just don't see because I'm the one performing the exercise. So the buddies that I train with can give me their 2 cents on what they see. But yeah, it's fun. The K-9 community is a blast, and I've met some really good fucking people. Some of the best people that I've ever met have been from that. So
this podcast brought to you by Zins. If you don't use them, you're a loser. Anyways, we're back in the booth here. I know we had a little pit stop. But one thing I was going to mention to you, Hans, is one thing that we didn't do enough in college is play cards. That's one thing I really wish we would have had like a card night, because we had bowling night. We just raged all the time. And I just wish we played more euchre, more poker, all that good stuff. What's your favorite on that? Playing cards and shit.
I'm a big fan of cards. I don't think I've ever even played euchre, to be completely honest. I really enjoyed. I was a big up and down the river guy. My brother Rick got me into that.
So fun.
So that.
Yeah, actually, real quick, and then I'll let you continue here. This podcast is also brought to you by Eric Broome, a guy that sponsors the show and sends a lot of good vibes our way. Really, really unfortunate he couldn't make it on the podcast here. But don't worry, Rick. We'll make sure that we pick it up where you'd want us to have it.
Yeah. God bless you. He got me into that, and that would have been, I think that would have been too much for some of the roommates and some of the people in our group to figure out how to learn. I think they would have just not want to take the time, because it took me a while. I mean, it is kind of a strange one. But we definitely didn't have. I don't even know if we had a table. Well, we could have used the pool table, I guess, at 617 to play cards. But bowling nights were some of my favorites. Because then it was dollar beer, dollar bowling, and then wasn't there a deal at Shiners as well on Tuesdays?
Dollar beer,
yeah. So I mean, what are you trying to like? That's like dangling a toy in front of a fucking puma, we're gonna just take that bait every time, and we're a bunch of broke, useless kids. So yeah, that was.
Shout out to what the hell is that bowling alley's name? Victory Lanes, maybe? I have no idea. I just kind of pulled that out of my ass, but shout out to them for how many times we went up there. Yeah, dollar beers, dollar
Oh man,
games. I mean,
I can't remember.
you could spend
Yeah, yeah,
hours
and we sure
there.
would. I can't remember the name of it now. That makes me kind of sad. Maybe one of our.
Yeah.
If I ask, I wonder if I ask Cal. I suppose I could look it up too. I'm pretty smart.
Send in a fax somewhere. Maybe you'll get
What
the
the
information
hell?
back. Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, playing cards. I love doing that with my high school buds. I wish I just did it more with more people. It's so fun to play those games and gamble a little bit. I will say I was never called to Texas Hold'em. I wasn't a big poker guy. I just didn't have the patience for it, and I didn't mind betting everything, but that was not something that I appreciated as much as other games. Up and down the river is a good one. 31's a good one. Euchre's a good one.
Lilac Lanes. Got it.
Lilac Lanes. Yeah, spent thousands there.
Yeah, no, there's nothing like a good card game though, especially if you got the proper table and you got some buds over and just get real competitive. I remember we used to get very competitive with Up and Down the River, uh, and yeah, it creates just a great time for everybody. We didn't do a lot of that though. You're right.
So one thing that's a little bit odd, we played a hell of a lot of video games though. Also, this podcast sponsored by Quickstar, one of the greatest American gas stations and just stores ever created. So
My favorite, my absolute favorite. Get yourself some Tornados. Get yourself some Blazers.
You know what they've been doing though, Hans? They came out with fucking these wings
Yeah.
now. They have boneless wings now. I mean, you can do most of your shopping there. It's just
yeah. They got a variety now. And I did happen to see the donut box that you acquired that you were telling me about. They have those, and I was on duty, and I thought it'd be really funny if I just buy this box for these donuts while I'm in uniform. I did not though, so I have to come back and buy 10 of them. But
I hope it's something that I look back on in like 2050 and they've all run out of style and I have my metal refillable glazer box. I eat the fuck out of donuts there, man. It's one of my favorite cheap meals is donuts.
yeah, I'm a huge fan of the
Man.
blueberry cake donuts. I'm such a slut for. You put those around me and I chomp them right up.
Yeah, so just to change the conversation real quick, so you are an alpine skier now, big ski guy you are. We need to take you out west sometime, and we need to go locally to Galena or Sundown just to get some reps underneath your boots. But yeah, man, that was super fun. I'd love to bounce it off of Rick to know where all he's skied. But I would say in an honest regard, we'll probably make it out west sometime, won't we? I mean, is that something that you think would be appropriate?
Yeah, I think it'd be extremely appropriate, and I'd be all in. I'm actually kind of surprised. Well, now that Rick has been wanting to take me for a long time, ever since he worked at Keystone. It just never happened, which is kind of surprising. I've been out to Colorado a couple times to see him. But yeah, if we can make it work where it's like me and you and whoever else and Rick and get a group to go out there. I mean, he's gotta be good. I mean, he worked like at the resort as a whatever you want to call it, a guy, not a guide, but he was like the lifeguard of the slopes. So I imagine he's gotta be able to get down the slopes and yeah, I think he likes a good black diamond, so he's obviously got to know kind of what he's doing, I suppose. But glad he could be here to share his thoughts on it. But yeah, he's been big into skiing for a while and been wanting me to get into it, and I had a great time. Honestly, I felt kind of bad because for your bachelor party, obviously we went skiing at Flagstaff, and it was beautiful time, and the weather was I mean, temperature wise, I thought it was great. You guys were saying that the snow itself was not the best for a beginner because it was quite slushy and whatnot. And then, the gnar wasn't as easily shredded out there. It kind of shredded me a couple times, but yeah, I had a blast, and I got to give some credit, all the credit really, to you because you kind of helped coach me through the green hill, and I was able to make it down without falling on the green. So then we
That's right.
bumped up to the blue, and I was having some doubts. My confidence was shaking a little bit, but I went down a couple runs, and I ended up not falling on the blue, which I was pretty proud of. And but man, what a workout too! My legs and my
Oh
back were
God, yeah.
fried. I had to take a break and go drink some Blue Moons and talk to the local barkeep while you guys were still out there shredding. But yeah, I'm glad I did that. I remember I remember waking up that morning and walking out, and you were like, "Are you really coming with?" And I said, "Yeah. I mean, we flew all the way here, and yeah, it's your bachelor party, so we got to do it." And but I felt kind of bad because you guys were obviously all experienced skiers, so you were just shredding it out there and having to hold my hand, but I appreciated it,
No, that's
and it
great.
was a good time.
So let me ask you this, Hans. Now that you've gone down that, so if I may, so like we recently, me and Emily, for my Christmas present, she took me to Galena, and I had to teach her how to ski as well, and to learn on an actual mountain. Like I'm gonna give you a lot of grace with that because like when you're in Sundown or when you're at Galena, like it's a glorified hill, so like it's not even close to the grade in which you were introduced, but like what was your honest take on just like doing it in general? Like, I'm assuming there are moments where you're like, okay, this is actually really fun, but like, what was your take on just like going down a couple times?
So like the initial green on the green hill, my very first few runs, like well, my first one, my skis just started moving, and I couldn't navigate at all. I was very much the feeling of down a river, a whitewater rapid without any oars or anything is how I felt. And then once you kind of explain, like put that pressure on the, this foot to turn, and this is how you can kind of control. These are the ways to stop. Like learning how to stop was step one. Like after I figured that
Yeah.
out, it made it much more enjoyable. But and then just learning, like once I got to the Blue Hill, like you start picking up speed so quick, and so learning like to slalom essentially, or like bounce from this side to this side and not just go straight down, bouncing from side to side to try to control your speed a little bit was very helpful. But it takes the Blue Hill, I remember was pretty wide compared to the green, and so I remember just being exhausted because I'm like, this is going to take me forever to get down this hill, and
Yeah.
if I don't want to fall, I can't just go straight down, so I need to go side to side. And yeah, no, it was actually very fun once I figured out how to stop and putting pressure on the right foot to turn and things like that. That's what made it, like, started getting the itch for it. I was like, okay, I'm starting to figure out like how to use my muscles, how to use the proper
Yeah.
movements. So that's when the fun really started happening.
I love that. Yeah. And it's like, it's so fast for someone to learn all of that in literally what, 4 hours? I mean, you start with the first time you've ever even put the damn things on to like trying to go down blues. Like that's, I mean, myself, Sherbring, Knowles, Muller, all them guys on the trip. I mean, we've been skiing. We've done learn to ski programs. We've been skiing for such a long time. But to go from where you were to where you ended up in one day, like that's a hell of a run.
Yeah, I felt pretty good, just to I remember you guys saying that, and it was kind of a confidence booster, but obviously I just need to get more reps in, and being in a small town in Iowa, we just don't have, the access. We have Sundown, or I think is what it's called, but yeah, I am very fortunate that my first ever run, or first several runs, were at a place like Flagstaff, like just beautiful,
Yeah.
just a beautiful place. And even though the snow wasn't like ideal, it was still just fantastic to be out there and in that type of place, because I'd never been on a mountain like that ever. Um,
Yeah.
So that was a sweet experience. Makes me want to go see the other resorts and try them out and just shred.
Well, and I'll tell you this too, and I'm sure Eric would love to comment on this as well. When you're out west, so like you have Sundown and Galena, which is glorified hills, then you go to Flagstaff, and that's an actual mountain, and it's badass. But when you're out west and you're in a chain of mountains, it's just like yet another upgrade to how fucking sweet things can be out there. So we'll make it happen. We're gonna find our way out there soon. I don't know when that will be, but rest assured, we're gonna get some skiing done out there and some real powder. And I'd love to see Rick tear it up too. I bet he's like you said, I bet he's got some skills and some slaloms. But how many zins did you end up doing that day on the hill? Because I think that's important to note as well.
Yeah, I mean, typically, the zins will only benefit your performance in any activity that you're doing. So I remember trying to keep at least 2 in at a time to help with weight balance and just having a clear mind and a full heart, or clear eyes, full heart. Yeah, I think that's what the saying is. But yeah, no, I honestly, when you guys were talking about, or I got to see Knowles and Muller and them like take the paths that aren't even paths, like to just be able to just go off down the hill in between trees, not a designated path. Like, what a feeling that must be. I could see why it'd be so addicting. Like, if you have the capability to maneuver so well that you can just go on a mountain and say, hey, nobody's touched this, 2-mile radius area of snow and trees, and just send it down. That would be, because I see like TikTok videos, guys wearing GoPros, and they just go down these insane terrains, and I'm like, what an experience that must be. You must feel like you're just flying, and it's just pure bliss is what it looks like. Of course, for me, it would be destruction and disaster, but
yeah, at this point, but you'll absolutely get there. You're an athlete. You'll get there, and that'll be the most fun part, I think, is watching your journey. But the only way they can do that, though, is because they're also zenning, and I really want to drive that point home, because if they weren't zenning, they wouldn't be able to do it. It's such a brain enhancer, and like you said, you've put 2 in at a time, maybe even 3. I can barely handle 1 6 milligram. That just shows you where I'm at in my life. But yeah, those guys can do 6 milligram zins, and that allows them to bob and weave so effectively.
right.
So if anyone takes anything away from this podcast, it's, get a zin, get multiple zins. What's your favorite flavor of zin?
Yeah, I mix it up, but I've been on a big wintergreen kick lately. Wintergreen's a good one. Mint is up there. Coffee flavor is very good in the morning. You toss one of them in, and then you drink your actual coffee. And it's a great habit, and I couldn't recommend it more. Obviously, I chewed Copenhagen for years, and so that was the alternative, much healthier alternative, in my opinion. There will be those naysayers that say, well, it's still nicotine and it's still, but there's no tobacco, just nicotine.
That's right.
So
Emily asked me the other day, she goes, have zins always been around? And I said no, because when they hit the market harder than a lot of things.
Yeah, I think there were probably some similar products like nicotine pouches, I think, but as far as the zins go, and then there's like the ions or whatever, like there's a handful of brands that are kind of flying in Zin's coattails, but no, the Zinnabuns, they're kind of leading the way right now, and they have this reward program, which I haven't taken part of, but apparently I know Rick is big into it, Walter's big into it. You can just scan the QR code on the back of your Zin tin, and if you get enough points, you get like fucking Traeger grills and Yeti coolers. So it only benefits you and the family.
I'd love if Rick wouldn't mind commenting on that really quick. I think he'd be a good guy to hear from directly.
Yeah.
On all the Zen barcoding, but unfortunately he was ill and couldn't make it today.
Yeah, I send him my QR codes. I'll send him pictures. He's asked me to send those to him so he can use them to get his points and everything. So, yeah, I should probably partake in it for how many Zins I go through. But yeah, so it's great.
Yeah, they're damn near healthy for you, and it's a great way to stay in shape.
Mm-hmm.
Is really what it comes down to. So we were just chatting yesterday about one of our mutual good friends, John Power, rather. Sorry. Shout out to John Power. Sometimes Austin Powers.
I was just gonna say.
They all play together. But he's a big hunter. He shoots things with guns and bows, and I know you do this as well too. Have you been on any excursions this year doing that, or what's the most recent update with your hunting escapades?
Yeah, so the bow season here in Iowa starts October 1st and goes until right around the beginning of December, and then obviously shotgun first season, second season, and then late season bow starts up again middle to late December, and that goes until January 10th. So I was a little bit limited this year with having my daughter and everything like that. Or she was born October 4th, so right after bow season started. But luckily, the roommate was very accommodating with my passion of bow hunting. She knows that's kind of my escape from everything. It's my favorite thing to do, and so I was able to go out quite a bit. Had some really good hunts. I had obviously my trail cameras out there that picked up some decent deer. I was after one 12 point on public land. I've started hunting a lot more public land in the last 2 years. Yeah, no, it's my favorite thing to do. I ended up not filling my tag this year. I passed up a lot of younger bucks and whatnot, just holding out for specific caliber deer, and but that's okay. It's just because I didn't shoot anything doesn't mean it wasn't a good season. I have a blast going out there, even if I don't end up shooting anything. It's the challenge, and it's just being out in the woods by myself and listening to the birds as the sun comes up. I did a lot of morning hunts because I would work until 2 a.m. So I'd get off work at 2, come home, shower, eat, set off to the woods, and be set up, an hour before first light. And yeah, it's my favorite, man. I couldn't recommend it more to everybody. It takes patience. That's something that a lot of people always say, I don't have the patience to do it. And especially bow hunting, it's more challenging than if you have a shotgun or a rifle or whatnot, because you got to be within close proximity, and there's a little more strategy to it. But that's part of why I love it is the challenge. And so yeah, no, it's my favorite. It's honestly, it's my escape from, between working out and bow hunting. Those are my top two things that I do.
Your top two. I love that. And I've known that about you, but I don't think I knew to the degree that how much you loved bow hunting. But I also think that it's such a masculine calling in some ways. And I'm super feminine because I've never gone out there and done it. And that's okay. I can admit that. That's fine. But I think that it's just cool, going out and scouting it to the point where you're like, all right, I'm going to be, on weeks and weeks and weeks of trying to find this really good animal. And then I just can't imagine it being, 100 yards away to getting to about 25. I mean, that's got to be just the most fucking badass experience. And then fucking landing that bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that honestly, I compare it to if I'm at work and I'm at a high stress call or a scenario where my heart is pounding and I have adrenaline going through me. It's essentially just like that when you see, this buck or whatever you're going for. In my case, it's usually a certain caliber of buck. And so when I see, even if I get a picture of it, I got trail cam pictures that send pictures to my phone, So I got a picture of this nice 12 point, and I'm instantly just, I need to get out right now. I just want to go be out in the woods. I want to see if I can get this fucker. But yeah, when you're out in the tree and you log all these hours, like I couldn't tell you how many hours I've logged up in a tree out deer hunting, and you may see this buck once for a couple of seconds at a distance, but if you're fortunate enough to have it within within shooting range, whatever that may be for you, I mean, you start shaking, your heart starts pounding. It's like when I went hunting with Buddy Walther last season, and we went up hunting in northeast Iowa around his place, and I wasn't even the one that shot a buck. Walther ended up shooting this buck, and I could hear it. We were close enough. I was in my saddle attached to a tree, and he's in his stand a couple hundred yards away, but I could hear it was dead quiet, and I just hear a thud, and then obviously deer running, and so I instantly perk up, and then I get the snap from him saying that he just shot a nice buck, and just that feeling alone. I wasn't even the one. I didn't even see the deer. I didn't shoot it, but your legs start shaking. You just get so much excitement because it's such a hard thing to do. Like, I mean, it's hard even if you're using even if it's a rifle or a shotgun or whatever weapon you're using, but bow hunting in particular, it's such a rare thing to have it happen. Obviously a lot of factors come into play with that, as far as how many people hunt the property, what does the property look like, and where you're at. But yeah, he's got some of the best land to hunt for whitetails pretty much in the country. It's northeast Iowa, and so that was his biggest buck to date, and it was my top 3 favorite hunts that I've ever been on, and I've been bow hunting for 19 years now, and so yeah, it's a wild feeling, and I recommend it to everybody. I love. Walther wasn't really that big into deer hunting. I kind of ended up taking him out with me a couple times, and he ended up getting more into it. And just to be a part of him shooting his biggest buck to date is like,
oh man,
it's just an awesome thing. It's and I would feel the same way even if I went out and filmed him. Like if I'm just the camera guy, we've talked about doing that, setting up on the same tree and I run the camera or something or whatnot. Like it doesn't have to be me being the one shooting it. Like I get just as excited if he's shooting it or if whoever shoots this just awesome animal, because they are awesome. I love whitetails so much, especially a mature whitetail buck. They're just so hard to hunt and kill. So yeah, I think that's what does it for me. It's the challenge. It's the excitement of not knowing at any moment they could step out and give you an opportunity to shoot it. And even the pros that do it for a living, when the deer pops out and it's 50 yards away, but it starts closing the distance and it's walking to you, and it's your heart just starts pounding, and you got to maintain your composure to make a good shot. And a lot of people, including myself, I've made shitty shots and I've missed, and you can practice as much as you can, but at the end of the day, once it's game time and you got that deer in front of you, you only get one shot, and you got to make it good and hope and pray that all your training and muscle memory comes into play and you land a good shot. And so, yeah, all that to say that's why it's my favorite.
That's fucking awesome.
It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, there's something about doing really hard things, and especially in this particular case, having it to be case dependent on an animal coming towards you. Obviously, there's certain strategies and things you can do to help them maybe come closer to you. But I assume it's one of those situations where no matter how many times you've done it, when that animal is approaching you, it's probably just like a limitless feeling of like, it doesn't matter how many times I've been here. It's like in this moment right now. And that's in some ways what I feel with skiing when I really want to shred the gnar, is like this feeling of like you're limitless and you can just be one with the mountain. But the thing that I think is so fascinating about hunting is like, it all comes down to the split second of right before you release the arrow. And if you're bow hunting or shooting, it's just like you have to be so patient and so focused in that moment. And then if it does go well, I just can't imagine running up or walking up to that fucking deer and holding that baby up and being like, let's fucking go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. That, like my most recent buck that I have, that I ended up putting on my wall, I still remember everything about that hunt. And it was, I think it was November 15th, and I was set up in this ladder stand, so I'm only 12 foot off the ground. And it was, November 15th, the does are in estrus pretty full on. So the rut is on and anything can happen. Bucks are running like crazy. And so I'm sitting there, and this coyote actually ends up, I was sitting over this grass field, and this coyote, it's like, I don't know, 2:00. And so I had only been in the tree for 30 minutes, and this coyote comes running across the field, and he's going directly to where the bedding area is, where I'm expecting the deer to come. And all of a sudden he gets to the timber, and I just see a bunch of white tails taking off in the opposite direction. And I'm like, he just bumped all my deer. Like, I considered getting down, moving spots. And I look up, and there's a doe walking along the tree line. I'm sitting on this tree line, and here comes this doe, and I look behind her, and here's this really nice 8-pointer, and he's following her. So she's in full estrus. He's locked down with her. That's his doe, so he's not leaving her. And luckily, she ended up walking within about 10 yards of my tree, and he's 15, 20 yards behind her. And the way that the wind was going, I knew as soon as she walked to my left, a couple more steps, she was going to catch my wind, because that's exactly where the wind was going. So she was going to get downwind and catch me. So I have my bow in hand. I have my release on the D loop, ready to pull back. And so again, this is where kind of the mental plan comes into play, just like everything we've talked about. Your game plan in your head is you got to listen to that voice in your head. And so I'm just trying to think, okay, if this happens, what am I going to do? If she does this, he does this, when should I draw back? What's the best opportunity? And so I said, as soon as she gets downwind of me, she's going to bust. She's going to bump, because I'm 10 yards away. So she's going to get this big whiff of me, and she's going to bust. As soon as she busts, I need to draw back, because the buck is hopefully going to be looking at her, wondering what the hell she's spooking for. And it couldn't have worked out any better. She walks downwind 10 yards away. She pops her head up quick, turns toward, look. I draw back, hoping that the buck is looking at her, not looking at me. And it worked out exactly as I'd hoped. He was watching her, and she's running away from my tree. So his head is looking at her, not looking at me. I draw back as soon as she busts. Luckily, the buck stuck around. He didn't just bust and take off with her. And so I get to a full draw without bumping him, and stuck him at 23, 24-ish yards. And he ended up only running, I think, 50 yards, and I got to watch him fall. And I remember I took a snap and sent it to my brothers and some buddies that love to bow hunt. And I wish I had saved it. I wish I had saved that snap. But yeah, that feeling is unlike anything. It's so addicting, and that's what keeps me going, is like anything can happen at any time. And that feeling of just all the hours that you put in the woods for it to come down to one moment that can either last for an hour, if he's not moving to you, or it can be 30 seconds. And just trying to mentally prepare for, okay, which way is the wind going? He's with his doe. If she picks me up, when am I going to draw back? Because we know she's going to bust. We got to hope that he sticks around. And so it was an awesome hunt, and yeah, I ended up sticking him and putting him on the wall. But so yeah, that's what keeps you going. It's super addicting, and I truly believe anybody that's never bow hunted before, after they shoot their first deer, I think it certainly won't be like a one and done type thing. I think more often than not they come back for more, because it's just such a challenging, awesome experience.
Yeah. What is going through your mind right before that shot when you're lining it up? Or are you more so just in the flow of like, all right, I got to just stick to my process?
Yeah, I mean, essentially that. Like I'm not thinking about how many points he has. I'm not looking at his rack. I'm trying to just focus on the hundreds and hundreds of shots in target practice that I've taken, and just more, focusing on form and putting that pin right where it needs to be, and slightly pulling the trigger and following through as best as I can. And because everything, like, now that I've gotten older, I've gotten better at it. But growing up, through my teens and everything, like, I remember vividly, like, I'm at full draw, I put the pin on this deer, and like as I'm pulling the trigger, I pick up my head because I want to see where the arrow goes. So I'm not staying, I'm not following through. I'm not staying true to the shot. I'm so anxious to see where the arrow goes that as soon as, like, the muscle mind connection, I'm pulling the trigger, and then my head pops up just slightly, and I've missed, or I've put shitty shots on deer because of that. So I've learned from those mistakes, but those mistakes still happen to everybody that's done it for years and years. It's what they call target panic, when you're in that moment, and everything comes down to this one shot, and everything goes perfectly quiet when you're at full draw, the seconds right before pulling that trigger. Yeah, it's so awesome, and it's wild, the kind of power that these animals have on us. Just what they do to our heart rate, what they do to our mind, because it's so challenging. And so all you're thinking is, gosh, I've logged so many hours for this moment. And you want to think, like, don't fuck it up, don't put a shitty shot on, but you can't think like that, but you can't help
Right.
to, but,
Gotta stay present.
but you can't think like that. You gotta be, yeah, keep your composure, be confident, and trust all the shots that you've taken. Uh, and that's honestly, yeah, that's what it comes down to as well, is getting all your target practice in. And because I've there's other guys that I am in contact with that they either don't practice with their bows as much as they should, or maybe they don't have the time. I don't know, but if you don't practice, and you get out there and you got a good sized deer, you're just way more likely to pull off on your shot, or have some sort of hiccup go down. And because, yeah, once you're in that moment, you don't want to be thinking about form. You don't want to really be thinking at all. You just want to have muscle memory come into play and make a good shot and follow through. And but I love the psychology aspect of bow hunting, and when it comes down to the shot and the seconds right before the shot, it's really interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like this is one thing we haven't talked about, but it would be a fun place to kind of get slowly wrapped up on the pod is, so yourself, myself, we love the game of baseball. You love hunting and you love training. I love training physically for whatever we need to do. It seems like you're drawn to like hard things in some respects. And I feel like I'm very much that way because it like really puts you on a mentality of like, are you going to sink or swim? But then also you're putting in all this work just for that moment of victory or to kill a deer or whatnot. Or, we went through those college workouts of, 45 minutes of hell. What do you think it is about hard things that you really, really like? I mean, I know you've mentioned obviously the satisfaction of like killing the deer, but I think just like from a high level, like what do you love about, training? What do you love about hunting and like just putting the time in for some of these things? I'm just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, like, training and in the weight room and workouts and fitness in general, it was something that kind of it was in my family. My three older brothers they got me into it. So I am the youngest of four. So I was kind of just following their lead. And um, I was only like 135, 140 pounds my freshman year of high school, and just fell in love with fitness, and the way that the endorphins and just the rush of completing this exercise or moving weight that I never thought that I could, or just reaching these goals. And I ended up, so from, freshman year being 140 to the end of my junior year, I was
Wow.
175. And, it just became addicting. I really don't know a better like way to put it. It just got to be a part of the lifestyle. And I think that in general with fitness is kind of what it comes down to. Um, they always say the hardest thing about developing a new habit is consistency and making it a habit. The first 3 weeks or 20 something days of doing a new activity, it doesn't become a habit or a hobby until 3-4 weeks of doing it. Um, and so, yeah, for me, it was obviously sports came into play. Like we had to work out because we were in
Yeah.
sports and activities in high school. But yeah, even in the off season or in my own time, I loved to work out, and I loved making progress and learning about form and just the way that it made my body feel. Like I kind of fell in love
Yeah.
with that and just overall health. Like, and there's I'm by no means a psychologist or a huge research guru, but they've done studies that being physically active and working out is beneficial to your mentality, to your mental state. And so I think like subconsciously, I just was happier. I felt healthy. I felt good, and it was a release from all the other shit that people go through in their lives, whatever it may be that's stressful. It's just a way to release some of that stress. And um, so yeah, that to me is what fitness really just it kept me going was. Not only did I feel good with my body, but also my mental state was, I didn't like during certain bow season would be a time where I wouldn't work out for like 3 weeks in a row because I was just bow hunting every day. So any available time that I had, I was bow hunting. And I remember my body just like, I don't retain muscle well. And so I remember just feeling like I lost pounds of weight. I felt skinny. I just didn't like it. And, so, to me, it just became a lifestyle. And, when you don't, for me, if I miss a workout or if I don't get certain things done in the fitness realm, then everything else is thrown off. Um, so that's what keeps me kind of going on the fitness realm. And then obviously bow hunting, uh, I fell in love with it at a super young age. My brothers and my dad, they hunted, but it was kind of just more of a every now and then we'll go out, something to do. But with me, I don't know. I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, I have so many like VHS tapes of old bow hunting companies that, before DVDs were a thing. So I still have those, and I bought all these DVD. I just tried to learn as much as I could and watch these professionals, and I was just obsessed with it. And yeah, I think the big part of it is the challenge. Like it's yeah, killing a big deer or any deer, is the end result, and you skin it, you gut it, and you cook the venison, and it's very nutritious, and so it's the respect to the animal is a big part. But yeah, for me, it's like going to hunt public land, which I've gotten more into the last 2 years. Never really did hunt public land growing up. Really, just within the last couple of years, I've taken a more interest to it, and it's it's really just putting everything together, putting all my experience, listening to other people, trying to gain as much knowledge as I can, and then going to this property that's open to the public and looking at the terrain, looking at deer sign and where I think they're going to be, where they're going to, and just picking a tree and trying to set myself up to be in the best situation and not knowing what's going to happen. Like to me, that is such a thrill that I just get addicted to, because it's not like you know, I'm not fortunate, or I just don't have the luxury of sitting up in a box blind over a food plot, um, and knowing that, hey, this is the only food plot within miles, so you're gonna see deer. There's nothing wrong with that, but for me, it's going into these hundreds of acres that anybody has access to, and you know that the deer are getting hunted. The deer know they're getting hunted, so that makes it more challenging. The more pressure that the deer have, and trying to pick a spot and find a tree that I think is going to set me up for the opportunity to maybe stick a nice deer. And yeah, that's what it boils down to for me. Like I said, shooting the deer is awesome, but it's not even it's up there for sure, but it's more so the thrill of not knowing what's going to happen at any given hunt.
Yeah, the adventure that you're on, I think, is
mm-hmm.
a cool way to kind of package all that stuff together. But I just love that too, because not only do you get the appreciation for nature and the laws of nature when you're out there, but just having to go through all that work and have it lead to results occasionally, I feel like is what keeps you coming back. Like if you just, to your earlier point, like you're more than welcome to have and forgive me, I'm going to sound like an idiot, but like the feed thing out there, and they're going to come. Like, sure, that's one way to do it. But I just feel like the more effort and hours you put in, even if the kill itself is not very frequent, it makes when it does kill like so much sweeter.
Mm-hmm. The reward is wild. I mean, it's unmatched, and I mean, there's so much that goes into it. Now, granted, it really is. I mean, you can put as much strategy into it, and I think it will help you. But bow hunting or hunting in general is a game of, essentially it comes down to luck. Is the deer going to walk in front of me at today? And because you could bow hunt once a season and you could shoot some huge deer. It happens every year. Not to say that there's not skill involved in that. Not knocking anybody that only has the time to hunt once and they shoot something huge. That's phenomenal. That's awesome. But the challenge for me is what keeps me going, because it's just so hard. Like hunting a mature whitetail, they just act different than, a lot of people that aren't in the hunting world will say, I see deer all the time. There's this couple of bucks that look pretty nice that I think, you could go hunt them and whatnot. And a lot of times it's 2.5, 3.5-year-old bucks that essentially are just adolescents. They're still harder to hunt and kill, but they're a lot more predictable at that age. The younger the deer is. So I primarily focus on, 4.5-year-olds and above, because they are just so damn hard to hunt. They are so smart. That's why they're as old as they are, because they know how to not be killed. And so, that to me is this is just me. Like, I have no issue with anybody that goes out and hunts, and whatever they shoot, as long as you're happy with it, it's all that matters. For me personally, I only go after a certain caliber of deer. And that's why, it was a good season. Every season is usually good. Like, I've had opportunities like this season. I had plenty of opportunities to shoot some 8 points, a couple of 10-pointers. They just weren't what I was after. And so those older deer, I had 2 encounters with one buck that just watching him move around the woods and the way that he acted, and it's so different than what you see, if you're on the road and you look into a field, you're driving and you look and you see all these deer and, they're just feeding and whatnot. It's kind of just a standard behavior. They're out feeding. They're not doing anything different. But when you're out in the woods and you got this mature buck, like watching him come to the edge of a tree line before he wants to go into this field or before he wants to cross an opening, like he just stops and he just looks and he just analyzes the entire situation. And they're just so cool. Like, to me, that's so badass that, like, that's why they're that old, is because he is so cautious and he's so smart. And they use does as essentially scouts. The does are typically mature does. are the ones that he'll position himself in a way that if there is danger around, the does are going to let him know. And that happened. Like that's happened to me. I've had a mature buck with a doe, and he just really kept his cool, and he just watched her move. She ended up getting downwind of me. She bust me, and he was gone in a matter of seconds. And they're just a cool animal, you know. That's what it comes down to. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on that, is just hunting a certain age group of.
I love
of
that.
deer.
That's what the podcast needed. And I assume that this whole time that you're out there, you do have a Zen in, or no?
Yep. Yeah, I always got my Zins. Typically the wintergreen flavor, because being out there with these aspen trees and all these other types of trees, there's definitely some wintergreen trees out there. So I want to have my wintergreen Zins for deer.
Yeah,
season.
I heard a fella say one time that he doesn't ever see a deer unless he has a Zen in, is what I heard. I don't know. That could be hearsay, but anyways, here we are. So I think it's an interesting correlation. You know, the more you Zen, the more deer that you probably could see and could kill. And a more serious note, though, I love your appreciation for whitetail. I've never heard you talk like that about them, and that's great to discuss a little bit, I think.
Yeah, no, I love talking about it. I love getting people into it. I think we should go out at some point throughout our lives when we have availability. I think you would really get a kick out of it. Buddy Ron, John Powers, that guy is also an avid deer hunter, and so just being able to talk with him and bounce just different experiences and things like that, and there's just so much to it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a sport, and you go out, you sit somewhere, you hope a deer walks in front of you. But I love the challenge and the thrill of trying to be strategic and look for deer sign and look for where I think they're bedding at, and playing the wind in your favor and all that. So.
Fuck yeah. One last thing for the podcast that is unrelated to what we've talked about, but I just wanted to bring it up. What are two lessons from fatherhood that you've acquired now that you have a young one that you made?
Oh, wow. Here we go, huh? I mean, so in my, coming up on 4 months of fatherhood, I guess I think the first one would be being patient, being understanding that this little life only has one way to communicate. So if she's having a meltdown and I've done what I think I can do to fix the issue and it's not working, to maintain composure and try to be, because I'm just naturally, I'm not a very patient person. Some aspects I can be patient, but there's a handful that I am not. And so I think that is one for sure. And then another one would be, I have definitely started sitting back and looking at the things that I do and I say, and just knowing that I am raising this human. I want to make sure that I am a good example and a good leader for them.
I love that.
So there would be times where if I'm away from her, if I'm out of the house or something and I'm not with her, I try to. So yeah, I think the other thing is I try to think about if my daughter was with me, how would I want to handle certain situations and what example do I want to lead?
Yeah, I love that.
So that's something that's really started to stick out to me, is it's like, hey, this isn't, we're not talking about a dog. We're not talking about, being able to just act a certain way and it's not that big a deal. It may not have an effect, or it comes down to, she's going to learn from me, and what example do I want to set? I want to make sure that I try to be as compassionate and loving and mature and set a good example for her, and to start practicing that now. I mean, obviously at this age, she doesn't she doesn't, it's not like she's going to start, her first word's going to be shit or fuck or anything like that.
We
But
wish it would
I want
be
to start,
fuck. Yeah.
it'd be kind of funny if it was, but I want to start practicing now, to be that guy, to be that kind of role model and whatnot, be a better person for her. So I think that's where I'm at in these 4 months of fatherhood.
I love that. That's a great answer. Yeah. I was listening to a podcast with Tom Segura, and he was talking about how kids increased his work ethic and drive and leadership in him personally that he never thought. So like he was on the opposite end of the spectrum. He thought it was going to be like the death of his lifestyle and everything else. And then he's like literally the most healthy, organic, like emotions to push you to do all these great things because of them. And I was like, oh, I didn't consider that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. Yeah, it's been a wild experience, and I'm excited for you guys to go through it, at some point in the future. But yeah, in these 4 months, I've already learned a ton, and I'm just, you start doing things for her and for other people, and doing things for yourself just needs to kind of be put on the back burner to some extent, and so working on that and just knowing that that's where you need to be mentally wise to, in my opinion, to be a good father and things like that is something that's constantly trying to remind myself. So
I love that, man. Well, we've talked about a lot today. We've talked about a lot in this podcast, and I just want to say I appreciate you coming on, Hans. This was a long time coming, and wanted to thank Eric for making it as well too. It was great to be able to connect with both of you.
Yeah, he had some good insights. So it was a pleasure, man. Thanks for inviting me on, and I know Rick is super appreciative too. It meant a lot to him. So we'll have to do it again sometime. Maybe we can even have more people attend.
I'm already thinking we should do so. I've never done a group podcast yet, and I think it'd be great to think about a couple of group podcasts coming up. But for the listeners' sake, appreciate you guys and girls tuning in, and until next time.